We're back now with the latest on the Israel-Hamas war and the conflict's devastating toll on journalists. A new report from the Committee to Protect Journalists finding the war has been the deadliest period for reporters in more than 3 decades.
The number of journalists imprisoned around the world hits a new record.
One of President Putin's most prominent critics has been sentenced to 25 years in prison for treason in Russia.
Journalism is not a crime. Evan and Austin should be released immediately.
What agency are y'all with? What news company are you with?
With the Washington Post.
With the Washington? Get the out of here! Yeah, get the out of here! Move your in your life!
The killings and the imprisonments of journalists are just the tip of the iceberg.
My Iranian interrogators told me that the Washington Post did not exist, that no one knew of my plight, and that the United States government would not lift a finger for my release.
For democracy to function, you need a functioning press. To have a functioning press, you need reporters and journalists who are free to carry out their work.
My truth will not stop, my journalism will not stop, my quest for justice will not stop.
There's nothing better this regime, the Putin regime, would like us to do than to give up and run away. And we're not going to give them that pleasure. It's our country.
Even after being poisoned.
It's our country. We have to fight for it.
Good morning, and welcome to the Washington Post. I'm Sally Busby, the Post's executive editor. Thank you all for joining us in person and online today for this extremely important event. Today is World Press Freedom Day, when we highlight the crucial role of an independent media and address some of the gravest threats to press freedom, including censorship, misinformation, and violence against journalists. These are risks that reporters around the world take every day. At the Post, our commitment to the protection of free speech and the protection of journalists is unwavering. In 2018, after the tragic murder of Jamal Khashoggi, we launched the Press Freedom Partnership, a coalition of nonprofit groups working collectively to call attention to the plight of journalists worldwide, including Vladimir Kara-Murza, who is currently serving a 25-year sentence for speaking out against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Rana Ayub, who has suffered harassment, misleading investigations, and sham money laundering accusations for her work. Rana's case speaks to the declining state of press freedom in India. And Austin Tice, detained in Syria since 2012, believed to be the longest-held American journalist in history. The list of terrible situations like these in our world right now is long. Today, we are joined by several individuals who know, through personal and unfortunate circumstance and experience, what is at stake for journalists worldwide. The world is closely watching the wrongful detention of journalist Evan Gershkovich, and we are honored that his sister Danielle is here today with us at the Post. It is essential that all of us who stand for freedom of the press stand with and for Evan and not rest until he is safely home. Danielle will join my colleague, Jason Rezaian, on stage for an update on Evan's case. Jason was wrongly imprisoned in Iran 10 years ago. He is a powerful example of the risks that journalists face, and his safe return is also a symbol of hope for all of us. We'll also be joined by my colleagues Bill Booth and Hazem Balusha, who will tell us about their work in covering the Israel-Gaza war, the terrible risks to journalists in that conflict, and the challenges in gaining access to cover the conflict. And finally, we will release the 2024 World Press Freedom Index from Reporters Without Borders and talk to media and free press advocacy group leaders about the global landscape for press freedom and what's at stake as billions of voters across the globe head to polls in many countries this year. Thank you again for joining us today and for your commitment to these issues. Jason and Danielle will join us on stage after this short video. Thank you so, so much.
We know that journalists around the world are increasingly under siege in a whole variety of ways. That's now manifested itself once again very powerfully in Evan's detention and incarceration in Moscow, profoundly, unjustly, for doing his job.
Good morning. Sally, thanks so much. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm Jason Rezaian. I am an opinions writer here at the Washington Post. I want to welcome you all to this important event. I'm really pleased to be joined by my friend, Danielle Gershkovich, whose brother, Evan, you saw in that video, you heard about previously, has been held wrongfully in Russia for over a year now. Danielle, thanks so much for being here to talk about what's going on in Evan's case and your advocacy work to bring him home.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. 401 days, that's where we are right now in Evan's detention. He was arrested in the city of Yekaterinburg, and a court in Moscow rejected an appeal last week to release Evan on bail, which means that he will be, in all likelihood, in jail until at least the end of June. I want you to start by telling us about Evan's current situation, what you know, and how he's doing.
So right now we're at a critical moment with the extension of his detention, and our family just is continuing to put faith in President Biden's promise that he's going to get Evan home. So we're just continuing, just take it day by day for now. Yes, I think showing the recent photo from the courtroom, this is just so incredible, but this is Evan, and we're so proud of him. I can't believe he's holding up so well, and he works so hard to be able to keep his spirits up this well.
I can tell you that when I see images like this or video from the courtroom, I'm on the one hand horrified by what he's going through because I can relate, but also I feel like I'm looking back in time a little bit, and the defiance and resilience is really inspiring to me as somebody who went through something similar a long time ago. I understand that the two of you communicate by letter, and I know that you have to be careful about what you write, and maybe they don't get to him or get to you in their original form, but what can you tell us about those communications that you've had almost directly with Evan?
That's how it feels. I get a letter from him. It's like Christmas morning, and I hear his voice in my head when I'm reading, and it just feels like I get to chat to my brother. It's a lifeline to my parents and I, and all his friends, everyone who loves Evan and gets to write to him. And it's our way of supporting him. And of course, there's a lot of sibling banter. We like to tease each other. So he's been telling me that he's enjoying spring, more light. So I'm happy to hear that.
Talk about just that process of sending a letter. Like, can you share a little bit about how it happens when you receive things, how you receive them back?
So the letters have to be in Russian, which has forced me to brush up on my Russian. It was all rusty. So I take about a week to write him a nice meaty letter, and then there's amazing people over there who will print it out and send it to him in the prison, and then we'll take a photo of it and send it to us.
So at the 1 year mark, the Wall Street Journal ran a front page, which is a jarring thing for anybody in the newspaper business to see. And I think it was a very powerful and stunning reminder, not only of what we're missing, but also the power of journalism. On that day, the Washington Post colleagues here wrote a feature story about you to mark that 1 year anniversary of Evan's arrest. Talk a little bit about how this is affecting you personally, but also your family and Evan's community and the larger community. I think a lot of people don't really understand the impact that something like this has on a wide number of people, and those ripple effects keep going.
Yeah. Evan is just an amazing person, and he's made friends all around the world. And we've seen this community of not only his friends, journalists, politicians, just everyone cares so deeply about this cause, and it's been so heartwarming to see. And we're incredibly grateful for Wall Street Journal and all the other news publications who are continuing to keep Evan in the spotlight, and that it's a matter not only just of my brother, but I understand it's connected to a deeper issue of press freedom worldwide.
And also of wrongful detentions, which is something that we've been talking a lot about. Just as a sidebar, I had the opportunity to interview Brittany Griner a couple of days ago, and this group of people is growing, and it's not a family that you want to be a part of, but once you're in it, you're welcome, and there is a real connection between all of us. The piece that the Post did with you as the de facto face of Evan's story, even though you consider yourself to be the more quiet one who's often in the background, I know from my own conversations with my big brother, who was thrust into this position as well, that it's not a title that anybody wants. It's not a position that anybody wants to be put in. Can you tell us a little bit about how that attention, how you've managed this sort of thing? You and I have talked about it before. It's not something that you ever imagined having to do, not just for Evan, but generally. What's that been like?
It was so scary in the beginning. I'm just a normal person. I've never sought out a career that would put me in that kind of spotlight, and shy. So it was very intimidating, but anything for my brother. So it made it easy in that I knew I had to do it. And I'm just really grateful that I've had so much help from so many people. That's, I think, what we keep repeating. It takes a village. And I've gotten advice from a lot of great people. I've done more public speaking than I ever had in my whole life. So I'm really grateful. I have so much support for that.
I've watched many of these cases unfold, and I can say that you've become one of really the most effective and powerful advocates for a loved one who's being held on the other side of the world. Are you surprised a little bit about the power of your own voice?
I guess I don't even think about that too much.
Probably better.
Yeah, it's maybe, yeah, rather not. Just I'm so glad that I can be an impact for Evan and for everyone else who's wrongfully detained. It's everyone should be able to go home to their families, and I just want that so badly.
You were quoted in the piece that the Post ran saying, "I'm really here just to remind people that Evan is a human being." I think a lot of what is attempted in cases like this is to dehumanize somebody. You just look at the images of your brother essentially in a cage being photographed. Talk about what that means to you. What does reminding people of Evan's humanity mean?
He's just an amazing person. I'm so glad the world gets to see that. First and foremost, to me, he's my brother. He's the person who has supported me, rooted for me always, is someone I miss so dearly, and also is an amazing friend. He's so caring, he's so loyal. People from all around the world keep telling us, "Oh, I'm his best friend. I'm his best friend." He's just that kind of person, and he brings people together. So that's the most important thing to me, is that people know that he's not just a journalist. He's also an incredible guy.
And I heard a very good cook.
Yes.
Does he cook for you sometimes?
Yes. Now he and my dad do cook-offs since he cut his teeth at restaurants.
Yeah.
So he's Mom and I sit back and do the dishes afterwards. He's an amazing soccer player. He's an Arsenal fan. He'll talk to you about literally anything. And we didn't always see eye to eye in our childhood. I was always kind of the weirdo.
Yeah.
Now he'll talk to me about anything.
And I heard there's some movies that you won't see until he comes home. Is that right?
I'm a traitor. I saw Dune. He gave me the green light. He loved the first one, and I was waiting to see the second one, and then he said, "No, it's okay, you can go see it."
I hope that you guys can rewatch it very soon.
Yes.
I was truly moved and really astounded by the community that I fell into when I was released from detention in Iran. And we're a small number of people, relatively speaking, that have paid such a steep price for making journalism. What has it been like for you and for your parents to establish relationships with other families who've gone through something similar?
Every case is different, but it is like an odd family, like you said, and to everyone who's been through this experience, like you have, and continuing to do this work, this activism, it means the world to support families like mine, and for everyone who's continuing to go through it. It's just such unusual, strange circumstances, and we're there for each other as much as we can be.
I can tell you, I reached out to your mom through mutual relations. It's a small community. Very soon after Evan was taken, and we've kind of kept up a text message friendship, and I get to see her every once in a while. And your family obviously would never have hoped for this, but they are incredible. You are incredible advocates, and I want to say that you've handled it incredibly gracefully from my point of view. just this past week, President Biden talked about Evan and included calls for his release in his speech at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And then former President Donald Trump told the Wall Street Journal that your brother should be released, calling your brother a very brave man. What's the message that you most hope to convey about the price of press freedom?
Well, we're so grateful that our country understands this is a bipartisan issue. It's a matter of democracy, and it's also a matter of safety for American citizens. So it's grateful it continues to be bipartisan, and no one should have to pay that price for journalism, and we just want Evan home as soon as we can.
I got to see you and your folks at the Correspondents' Dinner. It's kind of a strange environment to be with people who are struggling through one of these ordeals. The year that I was in prison, my brother came as a guest, and the following year, he and his wife and my wife and I all attended, and it was a nice way to bookend a really horrific experience. I hope we can all go to that again together next year. If you want to, I'm not sure you're going to want to be out. But it was pretty spectacular for me to be able to spend some time with you guys there. I'm humbled to know that my own release in some way has become a symbol of hope for other people in this community. What do you think Evan's homecoming is going to look and feel like? What do you want it to be like?
We already discussed in letters. We want to take a family vacation together, just like get away from everything and just spend time together. Just sure you can imagine how much we miss each other. And then we fully trust Evan that he's going to know what's best for him. He's a really smart, hard-working, talented person, and I think he might still want to be part of the journalism community someday.
I certainly hope that he wants to, but I could understand why he might not want to. All these years later, I'm glad that I've chosen to stay in it. But I just want him to have the choice, right?
Yes.
Danielle, there's like 1,000 other things that we could discuss, but I think we're going to leave it there for now. I really appreciate you all listening and sharing a moment with us. And thank you, Danielle, for being here this morning.
Thank you so much.
On average, more than one journalist has been killed every day during Israel's war on Gaza.
Took us in a couple of APCs, armored personnel carrier devices. We didn't see a thing going into Gaza from the Be'eri kibbutz on the edge. All of a sudden we emerge. There we are right at the hospital. Israeli special forces soldiers rush us up to the 3rd and 4th floor. We have a look down at the hospital. And what we saw at the hospital, I'd been to Al-Shifa many times in the past, not recently, but during my past time here, and it was just it was gutted. It was gone.
Hello, and welcome back. I'm Douglas Gell, the international editor here at The Post. Since October 7th, the attention of the world and, of course, of the Washington Post has been fixed on the Israel-Gaza war. To cover this conflict, The Post has mobilized dozens of correspondents across the Middle East and around the world, here in D.C., in Egypt, in Lebanon, in London, in Seoul, and, of course, in Israel, where we've assembled a large cadre of correspondents and photographers and videographers and researchers. Where we haven't been, for the most part, is Gaza, in the heart of the story, where access has been extremely limited. To talk more about the challenge, I'm bringing in both Bill Booth and Hazem Balusha, among those who've made the war the focus of their reporting. Bill is our London bureau chief. Hazem, originally from Gaza, is joining us now from Cairo. Bill, Hazem, it's great to see you both. Let me start with Hazem. Hazem, you've spent your career reporting from Gaza, and yet, at the moment, you're no longer there. Can you briefly tell us where you were at the start of the war and why you and your family have now decided to leave?
Yeah. October 7 attack started in the morning, and I was asleep at the time. It was 6:30, around 7. And out of sudden, there was booms, and we didn't realize that, what's happening, what's going on, because what happened never happened before. And my two boys were preparing themselves to go to the school, and I started to make phone calls and checking the online messages and WhatsApp, what's going on. And it took us a little time to realize that there is an attack by Hamas in Israeli communities nearby. So that was very shocking moment for me and for majority of people in Gaza, including my family. I realized that, I wouldn't say that immediately, but later in the day, this is something different. Gaza experienced different wars, but this is different. Even the first day, afternoon, there was when Israeli strike started, there was a building right behind our building, and which caused the smash of our apartment windows. So I started to think, this is not a joke. This is not a small war. It's not gonna end very soon. So from the first days, I started to discuss with my wife and with colleagues that should we move. Actually, I got displaced many times, even in a short period that I stayed in Gaza. In comparison, it's not a short, but in comparison with the people who are still there, I left Gaza in October 3rd, which is almost a month. I left my house, and 2 days later to a local hotel. Then I didn't sleep the night. At 2 a.m. We were ordered to evacuate, and we went to the hospital nearby, Shifa, and my wife, 2 boys, and I. We stayed in the yard of the hospital till the morning. Then we moved to the sister house until we were asked to evacuate Gaza City to the south. So we decided from that time, to be honest, to leave because for many reasons, for our safety, mainly for me, because of my family, my 2 boys and wife. It's important to be and even we stayed in the south unfurnished apartment, and it wasn't easy. It was very hard. Communication, blackout happened many times while I was there. So even my work wasn't easy when I was in Gaza. Free of movement inside the territory was really difficult and very hard. And I feel that I was lucky to be able to leave.
So Hazem, I'm going to ask you another question, but while we talk, we're going to show some images now. These were taken by our colleague Louay Ayoub, a photographer who was taking photos on behalf of the Post from October 7th until he too left in February. For much of that time, he was the only Post journalist inside Gaza, working along with photographers from other news agencies on the front lines, and this gives you a sense of what Gaza looks like today. And Hazem, you've now had to cover the war from outside in, first from Amman and then from Cairo, where you and your family are now. How are you able to do your job to learn what's happening on the ground in real time?
I have to say it's not easy. It's not easy to be away from Gaza. The field work is the best to know everything, but as I know Gaza, I was born there. I lived there most of my time. I cover different wars. I have relatives as well. I have friends. I know Gaza geographically, politically, socially. I worked there apart from being like a Gazan myself. Every day in the morning, I'm chatting, whether on the phone or WhatsApp or different means that to people there, mainly to check on my relatives who are still in Gaza. Some of them already left, but some others. I talk with friends, with colleagues on the ground. I check the news around the clock. Technology now is really good. It helps. There are a lot of channels on Telegram, WhatsApp, and other platforms that keeps the news on, and of course I'm well connected to the sources, different parties in different areas, mainly in Gaza and nearby as well. So that is the main thing, like to keep an eye. And I know the place like geographically, so I would understand what's happening here and there. And when I talk to the people, of course, I would understand what does that mean and how hard is that, so I can measure and understand the things there.
So I'm going to turn now to Bill, who's now based in London, but is a former Jerusalem bureau chief who covered the last major war in Gaza in 2014. So Bill, access to Gaza has always been tightly controlled by Israel, but in that last conflict, you were able to spend multiple weeks on the ground, even while fighting raged. So what's different this time?
In 2014, a couple of days before this 50-day war began, I ran, across the border through a free pass from the Israelis to go into Gaza. And I'd been multiple times, but we could get into the enclave with Peter Beaumont of the Guardian and Tate of the Telegraph, and we crossed in, and we could immediately begin to work, and we quickly worked with got to know my new dear friend Hazem Balusha, and we got into the car. We got into the car with Islam, and we could drive and go anywhere. We had free movement in 2014. 2014 was not the same war as this one is. They began first with more strategic strikes. They sort of hit where they aimed, the Israelis, and then it became more of a ground war and an incursion and much more use of tanks and artillery. But we could go wherever we wanted to. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't dangerous. We were pretty methodical, but there was no real guardrails on the situation there. But at the same time, in 2014, I mean, I slept every night at the Aldera Hotel on the beach, and had a breakfast and dinner, and Hazem went home to his family. It wasn't safe, but it was like doable. And this war, this 2024 war, we are not in Gaza. And I think the world is missing not necessarily my coverage, but Hazem Baluch's coverage. It would be good to be in Gaza, and it would be very valuable. But we're not. We're not in. We have to cover it long distance.
So Bill was recently allowed 4 hours in Gaza on a trip with the Israeli military to view the ruins of what was once the country's largest hospital, Al-Shifa. While we talk, Bill, I'm going to show some of these photographs shot by another Post photographer, Lorenzo Tognoli, who joined you on that trip. But Bill, in writing about that experience, you wrote that it was like looking at this war through a pinhole. Can you talk more about what you saw and what you learned and didn't learn?
Yes. I had the illusion that I might get to see things driving into Gaza. We got in APCs, armored personnel carriers. We drove in on all these dirt roads that the IDF has made. But I had this impression that I might be able to see things through the cameras in these APCs. They have cameras around them. Those cameras were turned off in the 2 APCs I was in. While I was going in, I thought, well, I'm going to have a little bit of a problem because I don't want to claim that I'm seeing anything unique, that the Palestinian reporters, 95 who have been killed or 100 who have been killed, haven't seen already and haven't shown us photographs and reported on. But I thought, okay, maybe I'll do a narrative. But I couldn't see anything. I didn't see a single Palestinian. I didn't see any rubble. I didn't see any damage. Then we pop out of the APC. There we're surrounded by Israeli Navy SEALs. They say, hurry up, hurry up. There's snipers in the area. There's still people around who are hostiles. You could hear weapon fire around us. We go up to a 3rd, 4th floor of where the Navy SEALs are camped, the Israeli Navy SEALs are. And they show us the view with Hazem Balucha in 2014. And since then, I'd been to Al-Shifa Hospital many times. It's the biggest hospital in Gaza. It's a central place there. The hospital was completely destroyed. I mean, it wasn't leveled to the ground, but it was an unusable, destroyed hospital. And the odd thing about it was that, not the odd thing, but just the value of being a reporter, getting to go someplace, not me, anybody, was that the IDF was kind of trying to explain that they could have leveled the whole thing with a big bomb, but they only hit certain areas because they were meeting so much resistance. They were essentially almost proud of this fact, but the hospital was destroyed. So if you didn't go and you couldn't see, you wouldn't have been able to get that sense of what had happened there. So that was the story of that 4 hours.
So as Bill's mentioned, the fact that access has been so limited on the ground has meant that the world's relied on a small number of extremely brave Palestinian journalists, including Hazem and Louay and others who've been left behind, but many have been killed. The number altogether in this war is 97 journalists, the vast, vast majority of them on the ground in Gaza. Bill, what do you worry most is being lost in terms of the world's understanding of what's happening in Gaza?
I think our Palestinian colleagues have been doing a great, tremendous, difficult job, right? But for us at the Washington Post and others, I mean, the old expression in foreign journalism is you've got to go to see. You have to get there to see what's going on. And the telling the stories of war are telling the stories of people who are displaced and killed, who are combatants, who are innocents, or on the other side. And if you don't have that, what militaries around the world will give you is sort of numbers and tallies and tactics. And numbers and tallies and tactics are not what war is. War is extremely violent. This latest Gaza war is incredibly violent. The civilian costs are high. The Israelis have also paid a high price with the Hamas attack on October 7th. But if you're not there and you can't pass those stories along to readers, and then the readers can make up their own mind what they think, but you got to go in and look at it, and you have to take pictures and video and photographs, and you have to interview people. And if you don't do that, then the public outside has limited view. Very.
Hazem, as a journalist who worked in Gaza for many years, you already had experienced some severe restrictions on your reporting, first from Hamas and also from Israel. How have your experiences impacted your view on the value of a free press?
Well, working in Gaza wasn't easy. I have to say that it's not a free country. Press is not free. Local press mostly affiliated. There is no industry in the press in the Palestinian territories, not only in Gaza. So that limited the freedom of press. Our work during the past was very hard. We had to deal with different parties, mainly Hamas, but others, of course. There was restriction on many things. We had to fight on every single thing, even tiny things. For some people, wouldn't be mentioned, but like sometimes it's really hard. But I don't want to praise myself or my colleagues, but like being an experience and working with a professional outlet in a professional way, doing your job straightforward, would limit the restrictions. I got interrogation many times before. My view is the same. I mean, like free press is essential. We fight for it hardly with everybody, but working in a place that is not one player is there. There are many players. We have to care and to be careful and cautious about so many things, about politics, ground. It's not easy. So, but during this war, free press is very essential, and it's important to tell the story of the people on the ground. No doubt about that. We think it's and I deeply believe that this is mostly important. Even when I talk to colleagues, like the truth, and only the truth, no matter what.
And we're about to run out of time, so Bill, I'm going to leave the last word with you. What do the people here need to know about the current war?
The current war is extremely violent. The Israelis suffered deep loss on October 7th, but what's happening in Gaza is a tremendous amount of violence, and Gaza's been reduced to rubble in many sectors, the north especially. I think that that our colleagues and friends and political people should push harder to let the press into Gaza now. I mean, 6 months ago would have been better, but if these are our political decisions, and these are partly our weapons and our efforts, I think the U.S. press, international press, needs to be there on the ground. We're very responsible. We can take our own risks. We're good at this, and we should be allowed in to report this story. The Israelis should press for this too, more than they have.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, with that, we're out of time. Bill, Hazem, thank you both so much for being here today, for all the work that you're doing, and stay safe. Please. And please stay with us. My colleague Jonathan Capehart will be out here next with our concluding panel, so please don't go anywhere. Thanks.
Our place is committed to the fundamental practice of accurate journalism where it might not otherwise be practiced these days.
Does that put your people in particular risk?
It does.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Jonathan Capehart, Associate Editor here at The Washington Post. Joining me on stage, Jody Ginsburg, CEO of the Committee to Protect Journalists, Steve Kappas, President and CEO of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and Clayton Weimers, Executive Director for RSF USA. Thank you all very much for being here this morning. Jody, coming out of that powerful conversation about the Israel-Gaza war, let's talk about CPJ's tracking of journalists' deaths while on the front lines, including the names that you can see on the screen behind us that are scrolling up. Who were these reporters, and how are you investigating the circumstances surrounding their deaths?
So far we've documented 97 killings of journalists since October the 7th. 92 of them are Palestinian journalists. Almost all of the journalists killed are Gazan journalists working inside Gaza. They include the likes of Bilal Jadalah, who ran something called Press House Palestine, which was a center for journalists to come and learn and train, get equipment. They are journalists who are working for their local radio and TV stations, but they're also journalists and freelancers who are working for organizations, as we've heard, like the Washington Post. But the important thing, as we heard in the previous session, is that Since October the 7th, no international journalists have been able to get into Gaza except on those very tightly controlled tours. So we are entirely reliant on these Gazan journalists to bring us information about the war.
You said 97 journalists have been killed since October 7th. How many of them were Gazans again?
92.
92 out of the 97.
Yeah.
Steve, Bill and Hazem just told us about the difficulty they've had in gaining access specifically to cover the Israel-Gaza war. You recently met with Ukrainian President Zelensky to discuss press access to the front lines of that war. What were the key takeaways from that meeting that you think apply more broadly to press freedom elsewhere?
Ukraine is obviously in a very dangerous situation, and these days, if you want to cover Ukraine, there's frontline war reporting, which is obviously important. We have a team of journalists who are committed to covering what's taking place on the front lines, but also there's a tremendous amount happening all across Ukraine these days. And as Ukraine pushes to be a part of the EU, as Ukraine pushes to be a part of NATO, fundamental principles of a free press are absolutely at play. And a strong democracy exists only in places where free press is allowed to operate freely, without harassment, without intimidation. And yes, there's a war going on in Ukraine, but these fundamental principles are absolutely essential.
Clayton, I promise I'm going to bring you in just a moment, but I have an audience question for Jody, and this is from Pat in Pennsylvania, who asks, what actions could help to protect journalists in war zones?
One of the things that's important to remember is that journalists are civilians, so they need to be protected as any civilian is during a war zone. They shouldn't be targeted. We believe that certainly at least 3 and many more potentially journalists in this war, in the Israel-Gaza war, have been targeted. That's an important factor. Making sure that those journalists go in with the proper equipment, the proper training, so that they can cover the war as safely as possible. But that also requires governments engaged in those war and militia engaged in those war to respect the rules of war.
Did you want to? I see you nodding, Steve. You don't have to jump in.
No, I think, look, the protections for journalists take on a lot of different forms. There's the physical protection, there's the flak jackets and things like that. But our journalists, in many ways, are like the canaries in the coal mine, if you will. I know Sting was in town this week, so I can cite a Police song. But what I mean by that is, everywhere where we operate, increasingly our journalists have to be protected in many different ways. Their physical safety is absolutely first and foremost what we push for. But in places all across our coverage area, there are things like accreditations that are no longer afforded to practicing journalists. What does that mean? That means that they might be declared as having broken laws simply for doing their jobs as journalists. And that means that they might have to leave the country, they might have to move on. And so we need to protect them, their physical safety, but we also need to protect them from harassment, from intimidation. We now have 4 journalists who are imprisoned. 2 in Belarus, 1 in Russia, and 1 in Russian-controlled Crimea. We have to protect them as well.
All right, Clayton, now it's your time. Your organization, RSF, Reporters Without Borders, or Reporters Sans Frontières, released its 2024 Press Freedom Index today. So, first question, what are the top 3 countries on the list?
Oh gosh, you've put me on the spot now.
Oh, no.
I always memorize the bottom and not the top.
Start there.
Well, because people like to ask. There we go. Sorry.
It's always
we get so focused on the negative. I'm actually glad that you started with the positive because we don't get to talk about it nearly as much. Jody and I were talking a little earlier about how World Press Freedom Day should be a celebration of the values of a free press, but so often we're talking about these countries at the bottom: Afghanistan, Syria, and Eritrea. But I think that kind of belies the broader fact, which is that if you are at the bottom of the index, whether it's the bottom 10, bottom 20, you are in a very dishonorable company. These are countries where the free press fundamentally doesn't exist, where journalists cannot be free to do their jobs safely or independently. They're not listed here, but countries like North Korea, there is no free press. China is the world's biggest jailer of journalists. There are more journalists in jail in China than any other country. But if you look at the top of the list, what you see are countries that have a legal infrastructure that guarantees freedom of the press. And when there are instances where journalists come under attack in some way, the court system is very adept at seeking justice. We also see governments that promote the free press by guaranteeing the independence of journalistic outlets. There's robust public funding available for media that both guarantees the pluralism of voices in the media, as well as the editorial independence that those outlets can enjoy from their governments.
So the United States, well, that explanation, that what you just said just right there explains why the United States is not number one on the list in terms of public funding of media. But the United States was in 45th place last year. It is now at 55th. Why did it fall so much?
It was a little bit shocking at first when I saw it, and then I started digging into the data, and it really made sense the more I read through our survey results and the quantitative data that we collect. We measure on 5 indicators: economic, political, security, legal, and social. The indicator that took the biggest hit this year was the economic. And I don't think that's a surprise to anyone in this room, given the record number of layoffs that have afflicted the news media industry in the past year, and all of the outlets that are closing, the death of local news all around the country. I think every state in this country is net negative on growth of news outlets, which means that news outlets are closing more rapidly than they are opening all around the country. That's a huge concern. But we also took steps back on the political indicator, and that's a reflection of what appears to be a growing willingness of political leaders in this country to vilify and insult the press. We see politicians calling for the jailing of journalists. We see calls for the weaponization of the Department of Justice against critical media outlets. And that in turn impacts the social score, which we know that trust in media is at an all-time low, and overall makes the profession much less safe for everybody.
So I'm going to jump off your last comment here, and I want to preface this question by saying I do not mean this in a partisan manner, but I have long wondered the impact of an American president attacking the free press, attacking journalism, the impact that has had on other world leaders and their view of the role of a free press. Am I making too big a deal of it, or is that fundamentally what's been happening?
No, it's had a measurable impact. It creates an environment in which other political leaders feel that it's okay to go after the media. They use very similar rhetoric. We saw that with Bolsonaro in Brazil. We've seen that with a number of leaders who've used similar rhetoric of enemies of the people. And what that does is not only create a tone at the top, but it starts to filter down, where local politicians also feel that it's okay to both verbally insult the media and denigrate the media, but then take actions beyond that. So we saw near record numbers of jailings of journalists last year, as we heard from Steve. People feel emboldened to take actions against journalists who are critical of them and to stifle a free press. And it's not just happening in the authoritarian regimes that we saw at the bottom of the list, but the really worrying thing is increasingly that's a playbook being used by supposed democracies. I mean, this week alone, we've seen the arrest of journalists here in the US for covering protests. And I think that is a really worrying indicator of what we may see in the run-up to this year's election.
Where we see it manifesting itself is take a look at the charges that have been leveled against people like Evan, from the Wall Street Journal. He's charged with espionage. When you look at any other number of people who get hit with charges of inciting unrest, defaming the military, these are politicized charges, and in the political realm, pushing journalists into the political realm where they don't operate. They're simply there to put a light on the truth. And so when journalists are described in this country as enemies of the people, Jody's absolutely right. You start seeing that same rhetoric being repeated, and beyond rhetoric in the form of charges and imprisonment, and it just doesn't stop. It certainly doesn't help.
Clayton.
Yeah, it's so true. The rhetoric has a powerful effect. We also know that dictators and authoritarians learn from one another. They borrow tactics, and so we see the same types of moves used against media and journalists being replicated all around the world. We know that China is trying to position itself as an exporter of its model of information control. A lot of the post-Soviet states seem to be borrowing from the Kremlin's playbook when it comes to censoring media and finding ways to trump up legal charges against them. On the flip side, though, we can document cases where positive changes in rhetoric improve the press freedom score on the index. So Brazil is a really good example of that. You have a change of presidential administration switching from a president who regularly attacked and vilified the media to one who is much more respectful of press freedom and encouraged journalism, and that's reflected in the data and the mood in the country.
Steve, I'm going to come to you about Alsu Kurmasheva in a moment, but Jody, before we move on, more than half of the world will vote in elections this year, making this a, quote, super election year. Is there a relationship between press freedom and elections?
Absolutely. We rely on journalists to bring us all sorts of information that inform what we do when we vote, even our ability to vote. You know, knowing that you're entitled to vote, knowing that people are trying to take away your right to vote, understanding what the candidates are saying, and having journalists test their record. You know, it was great traditional journalism that uncovered the, well, now criminality of George Santos and has seen him ejected from Congress. So absolutely there's a link, and I want to echo really strongly Steve's point about canaries in the coal mine. I think this year is going to be really indicative not just of the future of a free press, but the future of democracies, because how we treat our media in the run-up to these kinds of elections is a litmus test for how the other freedoms that we enjoy and the other democratic rights we enjoy are likely to be treated afterwards.
Okay, Steve, so let's talk about one of your colleagues, Alsu Kurmasheva. Her husband, Pavel Buturin, is on your staff also. You see him and their daughters often. Tell us real quickly about her story and give us the latest update on her case.
Well, you can see her photo here. Also has worked for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty for more than 25 years now. She is, I can describe her any number of different ways. She's a colleague, but she's the wife of Pavel Buturin. She's the mom of two wonderful young women who've had to grow up awfully quickly over the last 6 months that she's been imprisoned. She's an American citizen. She went to Russia, where her mother lives. Her mother was not doing well last year, and so also went back to help take care of her. When she went to leave, she was prevented from leaving. This was supposed to be just I think a 2-week trip, and that was last summer. She was prevented from leaving and has been now imprisoned for more than 6 months. And she's a proud and wonderful member of the Prague community, where RFERL is headquartered. And she's one of 4 journalists who are imprisoned. And, you know, we talk about, when you talk about numbers, you know, it's staggering what CPJ's been documenting, the numbers of people who are held behind bars, but each and every one of these people are individuals. So Ihar and Andrei, who are held inside Belarus, and Vlad, who is held in Russian-controlled Crimea, and also are in our thoughts every single day.
And you mentioned Alsu has two daughters. Yep. Two daughters. And we have a video from Alsu's daughter, Bibi, who has a message of her own to share on this World Press Freedom Day.
Great.
Today, it is World Press Freedom Day. My mom, Alsu, has been behind bars in Russia for 6 months now because she is a journalist. My sister and I are so proud of her, and we miss her so, so much. She needs to be freed immediately so she can come home to us. Free Alsu.
That's a 15-year-old.
I was just about to say, she's 15 years old.
Yeah. She's a remarkable young woman. I will tell a story just briefly. A couple weeks ago, Pavel, Bibi, and Miriam were here in town, and Jake Tapper over at CNN was good enough to host Pavel and Bibi. And at the end of the interview, Jake said, why don't you take this opportunity to speak directly to Vladimir Putin? I think if any one of us were given that opportunity, the palms would start to sweat, and you'd be nervous and anxious. And then CNN pointed her to a couple different cameras, and she just sat there with great poise and then delivered an incredibly powerful, pitch-perfect message directly to the Russian leader calling for her mom's release. Like I said, they've had to grow up awfully quickly. Pavel and Evan's families have become good friends through all this, something that should never have happened, but there is a small community right now, and we feel the support, I should say, right from the beginning. I should have said right from the beginning. We feel the support from CPJ, from every one of these organizations, including the Washington Post today, so thank you for doing this.
And we have just a little over 5 minutes left, but one more question for you, Steve, before I go to Clayton. In 2012, when you were my boss as president of NBC News, Chief Foreign Correspondent Richard Engel was and his team were abducted in Syria by armed militants. Did that experience prepare you for this?
You realize how quickly moments can change and how you just kind of look into this void and not have any idea what's going on. That incident with Syria ended after a very short amount of time. It was an agonizing couple of days. People weren't sleeping and things like that, but we brought them home. This now, and if you think of what Austin Tice and I heard his mom speak this morning, it's been almost 12 years now for that family. And the same thing with Evan's family and Alsu's family. The time just starts accumulating, and it's really beyond time to bring them home. We noted that the president today called for their immediate and unconditional release, and we certainly appreciate the words of President Biden.
Clayton, I know you've been nodding and trying to double dutch your way into the conversation. I'm sorry. I would love to get your thoughts on anything that might be on your mind, but I do have an audience question for you, and this time it's from Adam here in DC, and he asks, do you see a correlation between trust in media and press freedom?
Oh, absolutely. Trust in media it's a really symbiotic relationship. So like I said, one of the ways we measure press freedom is on a social score, and which really sort of measures the prestige and the mood of the general public towards journalism. And when you have this deterioration of the trust in media, it enables political leaders to become ever more hostile because they don't feel like they're going to suffer consequences publicly or politically. And it degrades the safety conditions for journalists in the field. We've seen so many instances of journalists being harassed while they're covering protests. It also really lowers the bar for the level of anger and vitriol that's lobbed at the media, and it makes it so much harder for any of them to do their jobs. And I wanted to come back to one point on Alsu that I would be remiss if I didn't make in a room full of potentially very powerful people in Washington, D.C., is that Al-Suu has yet to be designated as wrongfully detained by the U.S. government. And that's a really important step because it is a signal from the State Department that she is essentially a hostage, that she has been wrongfully arrested for being a journalist, which is objectively true. That designation has been made for many other Americans who are currently being wrongfully held all over the world. It has yet to be made for Al-Suu, and RSF is really disappointed that the State Department hasn't yet made that designation.
Thank you for that.
Jody, in the literal couple of minutes we have left, in an op-ed in the New York Times last week, you wrote, "Without independent witnesses to war, atrocities can be enacted with impunity on all sides." What's your message of warning to governments around the world who are not protecting the right of a free press?
That a free press is fundamental to good government. It's fundamental to all of our freedoms, and stability and security of our societies is reliant on that. And if I may, I just want to grab 30 seconds to say, one of the questions that I know came in because it always gets asked is about Julian Assange. This month is his last-ditch trial in the UK. RSF has been doing fantastic work on this. Again, I would use this opportunity to encourage the US to drop its charges against Julian Assange. If he is brought here and he is convicted, that will create a terrible precedent for press freedom everywhere. It's really important that the US upholds its commitments to press freedom, and that includes dropping the charges against Assange. Governments have to realize that press is not there to make lives more difficult for governments. It's there so that we can make sure that we all have access to the information that we need to live freely, safely, and it's essential that it is protected.
Last word, Steve?
I will just say just a little note about RFERL is an independent, we receive our money from Congress, but this is an independent news organization. None of our people work for the government, and we're fighting the good fight, and we thank everybody for the support as we continue to go about this vital mission.
Last word, Clayton?
There's no freedom without press freedom. It's the freedom on which all the others are based.
And with that, perfect timing. Jody Ginsburg, Steve Kappas, Clayton Weimers, thank you so much for being here for this conversation today.
Thank you, Jonathan.
You can't leave until I finish this last bit. And thanks to all of you here and online for being with us today. Our slogan, "Democracy Dies in Darkness," is a daily reminder to us all of the importance of a free press. To learn more about our upcoming programming and to take advantage of a free trial subscription of the Washington Post, please go to washingtonpost.com/live. Again, I'm Jonathan Capehart. Thank you all very much for being here today.